Hey, good morning, everybody, or whatever time of day it is, wherever you are. It's 11 a.m. on the East Coast, or where I'm sitting my butt here in Atlanta. So, whether you're in the morning or the afternoon, welcome. Thanks for coming. I appreciate you. Hey, this is the Revenue Through Reputation show. If We've got kind of three different audiences here, which is kind of cool. So, if you're watching this live on video, which I don't even know which channels we connected to today because honestly, I was running late after a really good meeting. But if you're watching us live, usually LinkedIn, YouTube, somewhere, you can comment and it'll pop up and you can ask questions. You can tell me I'm wrong. You can tell me you think I'm right. You can say something funny. I mean, come on, it's me, dad of five. I love dad jokes, make me laugh. But if you're live, you can add a comment and we'll see it. And I could address it and have a chat with you. If you're watching it on video, of course, you can still comment and I will get a notification and I will come back and answer questions or comment on your comments or have a chat with you in the comments. And then lastly, if you're on the podcast, don't want to discount you. Thank you so much for watching Revenue Through Reputation show. On the podcast, hey, if you like what you're hearing, would you mind like give me a review and or snap a picture of it on your phone, send it to somebody and go, hey, this kind of makes sense, this guy's not completely full of crap, or whatever you want to say. But yeah, that would be great. Look, I am so excited you're all here. I love doing these shows. In fact, I've had some really interesting feedback over the last week of people saying, hey, I came across your show, and I'll share with everybody what I love about this in my 30 years of entrepreneurship and then doing some consulting and fractional work in between companies that I've owned, and some that I've owned and sold, woohoo, and some I've owned, started, and failed, woohoo. I've been able to work alongside some really great companies in fractional consulting roles. And what I like to do with the show is just share the things that I'm hearing, what I'm seeing, what I'm experiencing, what other people are telling me they're experiencing. And today's topic is really, really important. The title is Why Trust Doesn't Come from Volume. And the subtitle was Clarity Builds Connection, Volume Just Adds to the Noise. But I want to get everybody if focus on why trust doesn't come from volume. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to go through 4 segments today, and we'll be very clear with where we're going. The first one is called, Are You Mistaking Visibility for Trust? So be thinking about that. But before we go there, I want to let everybody know, if you are a CEO in professional services space, tomorrow, Alice Hyman and I, my friend Alice, who's been a guest on my other show multiple times, we're leading a roundtable discussion for CEOs on lead gen, what's working, what's not working. And here's what's really important. Roundtable discussion, this is not a sales pitch. It is not a webinar. We're not trying to teach you anything. Nobody's going to try and sell you anything. It won't be recorded. So if you want the value from it, you have to show up. And here's where I think the value is. Right now, I think we have about 28 or 29 CEOs. The last one, we had about 56 people registered. This one, we didn't promote for as much, but as long a period of time. But these are CEOs in professional services talking and sharing with each other what's working, what's not working, what their big questions and concerns are moving into the rest of the year. So if you're a CEO or C-suite and you want to be a part of it, I'll drop the link down in the comments. If you don't see it, you could message me on LinkedIn or comment anywhere you're seeing this and say, hey, I can't find the link, and I will bring you the link. But that is tomorrow at 2:00 Eastern, if you're interested in that. So let's get into this, because this topic is really, really important for everybody. I think especially now. I don't want to beat this part into the ground, but AI has completely changed everything, as we know, around content, generative content, the amount of content that is out there now, the amount of phone calls we're getting, has increased because of AI, automation calling, and the amount of emails that we all receive has increased because generative AI makes it even faster and easier for companies to create email, yada, yada, yada. You all know the story. You're experiencing it as well. I mean, this topic came out because of conversations I've had with people that just said, oh my gosh, the volume of messages, the volume of information. I didn't think it could be even more, and it is more. So, as a business owner, as a business leader, the big question is, are you mistaking visibility for trust? So, look, I get it. It's really easy for all of us to say we just got to get our message out there in front of a lot more people. If they just knew we existed, they would want to talk to us. And the flaw in that, in my opinion, and what I've seen lately is that the flaw is really just in timing. That thought, that strategy of just get and tell enough people about it and they will want to talk to us, it used to work. And it used to work really well, which is why cold calling, call centers worked really well. It's why email automation worked really well for a while. It's why the mass direct mail worked really well for a long period of time. The strategy, the rationale behind the strategy is very logical. If we just tell enough people, enough of them will go, wow, this is interesting, and want to have a talk. And we would have more conversations and therefore have more opportunities and therefore close more detail or more deals. And we won't have a problem with revenue or cash flow anymore. The logic is sound until we realize how much all of our customers are being bombarded with information and the reaction that it has had. So I want to ask you all to take your hat off as being a content creator or a sales person or a CEO of a company from a sales perspective and think about it as a recipient. What captures your attention? Is it people who post more, or is it people who post things that help you, that make you want to engage with them, that make you be curious, that stop you in the feed and make you go, oh, that's interesting. I'm kind of curious about that. Like when you're on the receiving end, what starts to build, and you may not even think about this, but what starts to build some sort of a trust with people's content, with people through their content? It's a really important question as we think about ourselves as content creators and trying to get our message and our company out there. Is our tendency is to think, let's post more, but I want to encourage you to think about what you're posting more instead of posting more. Did you get that? That was kind of cool, right? I want you to think about what you're posting more, like more thinking about what you're posting instead of just posting more. Because if our content isn't stopping people, we're not getting them to engage, it's not creating engagement, then we're just not building trust. We're just more noise. I believe marketers were in a really hard spot. Go back 10, 15 years when it came to website traffic, to email open rates. Like we got so caught up in data that a lot of times we didn't ask ourselves if we were really even looking at the right data. So, we get vanity metrics that are, oh, I got 15 people that liked my post. But if you look at the 15 people and 13 of them are on your team and two of them are, one's your neighbor and one's your mom, Are you really building trust with your buyers, or are you just getting applauded by people who like you already and just want to encourage you? We need to not look at the amount of content we're creating, but the value, the engagement value of the content that we're creating. What I've found recently, and those of you that may engage with me or connected with me on especially LinkedIn, you may have noticed a shift in my own content. I'm sharing a lot more from my personal journey. I'm sharing more about, as a CEO or as a founder, as a leader of a company, when I've been in alignment with my authentic self and when I haven't been in alignment, and what the differences are and how they played out in success or revenue. I'm talking about how, as I've gotten older, I've shifted the definition of success. And ironically, for those of you, it's as I've shifted the definition of success in my life, it's actually more financial success has come from it, which tends to be the way in our culture we define success. And I just stopped defining success that way. And realizing that through focusing and being grateful for the other areas has actually helped the revenue area grow more. Really weird phenomenon, right? The irony of it, and just when you spend less time focused on it, it actually grows. Things that we know, but my point is that I haven't been worried about posting every single day. I post on a regular basis. I have been less rigid about, do I do it on the same days at the same time every time? I've just been sharing more about what's going on in the journey, what I'm thinking through, what's going on, what I'm experiencing. And my engagement volume has dropped, but my engagement quality has increased. I've increased more direct messages from people that have sent me messages saying, their opinion, or like, hey, thanking me for what I posted, or asking me questions. And through that, the depth of those conversations or the depth of those connections has actually created more customer opportunities and more referrals. Here's what's happening: the trust, the connection, the resonance, the emotional connection is for me with some of these other people, is actually creating them to introduce me to more people, or them going, hey, I'm not really sure exactly what you guys do, but I want to learn more. I had a conversation with someone yesterday that there's absolutely no pitching whatsoever in the conversation. There was no sales conversation. I was just there to try and serve and ask how I could help. And then the conversations is like, well, Brandy, tell me a bit more about what your company does. Like, I want to figure out how to work with you. Didn't know what we did, but said, I want to figure out how to work with you. And it's because the trust factor was built. The foundation of know, like, and trust was built from me serving them with my content, with a few other things. And in the conversation that we had was so focused on them and what they were going through, and what the CEO's challenges were, that he just felt more compelled to go, like, basically what I heard, and this is just sharing an example. What I heard was, man, I really appreciate you pouring into me. I appreciate how much you're helping me. What exactly do you do? Because I like you and I want to work with you. That's really what I heard and what I experienced. So the theme of this, are you mistaking visibility for trust, is clarity creates trust. Volume creates noise, but the clarity isn't just what we do, but it's part who we are. It's a big part of who we are and how we show up. Last week I talked about your humanity a lot. And our humanity is our uniqueifier, right? It's the one thing that we are totally different than everyone else in the entire world. Our experiences, our journey, what we think, what we've gone through, people we know, conversations that we've had, all of that is so unique to us that when we bring that humanity into the business conversation, that uniqueness, the uniqueifier, uniqueifier, right? Really cool, right? Playing on words. I'm sure somebody's used it before and trademarked it, but I think it's a great way to remember that humanity bit and sharing our experiences, our journey, and what we think, what we experienced, what we feel, what we observe. Nobody else can do that like us. And it's the content that people are resonating with now because it can't as easily, I'm not going to say AI can't produce it, but it can't as easily produce it. It brings in humanity into our content. It brings personal experience. It brings personal thought, observation, attention, and feelings, which other people's human hearts connect to because it's not pitchy, it's not trying to sell us something, it's not dry and boring, it's human. I don't know how else to say that. I've experienced this over my entire career. And I know there's a lot of voices out there, especially in LinkedIn, about, oh, it's business, business, business. And I just think it's bullshit. Business has never been 1,000% about business. Business has always been relational and getting to know people. And do we like this person? Do we trust them enough to do business? Do we trust them enough to have a second meeting and go have a coffee or go have lunch or go golfing or go do something with them at a happy hour? It's always been a progression of small steps that lead to the opportunity. And then as we've got all this technology and social media and email and everything else, a lot of companies just move straight to the fight, straight to the sale, right? Hey, we do this for these types of people. And if you have this problem, look, I get the desire for quantity. I do. But it risks the value of quality, and quality creates trust. So let's get into let's go to the next step, which is the clarity gap. Um, hey, if your message isn't landing, if you're like a lot of companies, we've worked really hard on our messaging. We're sending it out. We're not getting the responses that we want. We're sending out the emails. We're having the conversations the best that we can. We're leaving voicemails, and we just aren't getting the conversations that we want. So the real big question then is, if our messaging isn't landing, what I propose is that you haven't built a foundation of trust in order to get people to want to respond to your content. And that foundation of trust, like we just talked about in the segment one of are you mistaking visibility for trust, is that your content is more about quantity. It's about telling people who you are, what you do. It's about building promotion instead of building connection. And so your message isn't landing because there's not a foundation, an emotional foundation that people even feel like, oh, I like this person. I know this person. I've been paying attention to their content. I like what they have to say. They make me think. I've been entertained by their content. Whatever the cause is, they don't have that foundation of feeling like they even know you or like you or want to trust you. And so your messaging from the get-go is it's in one ear, out the other. So those of you on the podcast might, what that means is the visuals I'm doing of pointing in one ear and out the other. Right? Our messaging just doesn't land. Trust is the new pipeline. Trust is the foundation of the new pipeline, right? Funnels really push people away, and a flywheel can attract when the content is focused around human experience. So Here's what I mean is, and again, if you're paying at all attention to my content, you probably already resonate with this, because I find most people that don't like my content because they think, oh, emotion has nothing to do with B2B business, and we're not focused on building connection. We just need to go promote and tell people who we are and what we do, and then they will come. The whole "if you build it, they will come" mentality. Those people don't tend to stick around. They tend to tell me I'm crazy. It doesn't work. I had somebody tell me one time, "Oh, you're one of those true believers that think this stuff actually works," and I'm like, "Well." I built and sold 3 companies following this, so yeah, I'm pretty sure it works. I've done hundreds of millions of dollars over the years across multiple companies from this, and so I know it works. I know it works because I know that the foundation of humanity and the psychology of people is not changed. When buyers feel connected to someone, they're much more willing, interested in talking to that person or somebody from their company. When you as a leader are creating content from your experience, from your journey, from your observations, something unique that only you can share, not, oh, we do 1, 2, 3 for ABC companies in order to help them solve these things, right? Gone in one ear, out the other, because so many messages are just that. But when it's sharing, hey, what's going on in the market right now reminds me of what we experienced 5 years ago. And this is what I learned, or what we learned 5 years ago, and how we're applying it today. That is bringing your humanity into your business and sharing insights that nobody else can really create. I mean, they can from their own experience, but it'll be different because their experience is different than your experience. And here's the other thing, and I know this is really, really difficult. It's really scary. You know why? Another reason why this type of content really, really works is because very few people create this type of content. Very few people are creating this type of content because most others are scared to share their observation or their belief or their feelings. And so this emotional resonance framework that I've created is a way to get aligned in your messaging is a good way to get started. So if you've been creating content that promotes instead of this style of content that comes from our humanity, from our experience, the content that builds connection, here's a way to think about it. So the emotional resonance framework is this. And if you don't, emotional resonance means how do we create content that emotionally resonates with people, or they will emotionally resonate or emotionally connect with us because of our content. And the reason this is so important, and we know this all from psychology, right? Logic makes people think, but emotion makes people act. And after all, don't we want our behavior that we do as leaders or as salespeople, don't we want that to get our customers to take action and not just think? Especially because everyone else, all our competition, if they're getting people to think, they think, right? Think for a minute, it's gone. But when we get them to, when they come to a place of emotion, it leads them to act. So I'm gonna go back to the conversation I had with a CEO yesterday. Just an example, it's fresh in my mind. Everything I've done with this person has been serving them, asking questions, learning about them, learning about their business. Right? It's all been building that emotional connection. I did a lot more listening than talking. I'd asked a lot of questions. I was very curious about him and his business and what they did and where they were going and where they were finding success and where they were finding challenges. And what evolved from it was him saying, tell me more about what you do. I want to work with you. And I know. It's hard because it feels very passive. But let me ask you this, all your active outreach, how's it paying off? What's the ROI? Right? What's the return on that investment? What's the return on that effort? How many hundreds or thousands of cold calls do you have to make to create an opportunity? And then how many opportunities do you need to close a deal? I mean, I would just say from this perspective, I'm having a lot more fun doing what I'm doing now in this emotional resonance framework that I'm going to share with you. I'm having a lot more fun and watching the deals stack up without doing the hard, cold, annoying outreach. So let me share the emotional resonance framework with you. At the very top, it's leader-led content. Ideally C-suite, but sales leaders, customer success leaders, operationally, anybody in leadership. I mean, that's really what your customers want to know, right? Like, who are you and what do you think about? That's really what people care about. Oh, hey, look, Butch and Dr. Joe, thank you guys so much for joining today. I really appreciate that. I didn't see those comments before. I'm not sure why, but thanks, Dr. Joe. Talk to you later today too. I know we're on our calendars together. But the emotional resonance framework, leader-led content, leader content, specifically sharing content around what have you experienced, what do you observed, what do you feel, and sharing that from your own personal journey. That type of content is going to tend to more naturally get people to engage and build that emotional connection with you. Okay. So the second phase, that's the top, but the second is making sure that that content is designed to build connection instead of promotion. And this is just the second step is really a gut check. And I'm going to talk a little bit about this in segment 3 or 4. I can't remember. I think segment 4 about building clarity today. But it's really making sure that your content is more of sharing story and journey and thoughts and feelings and experiences, because that builds connection, versus content that promotes, because most of us, including you, we all have a knee-jerk reaction to being promoted, anything being promoted to us these days. Unless it's perfect timing, fine. But most of us, it's like, I don't want to be pitched. I don't want to be pitched again. Don't sell me anything. And we just put up a wall. And hey, you've experienced, right? They smile and they shake their, oh yeah, that's great. And then they just can't get away from you fast enough, or they ghost you. The second call, they agree to do a follow-up call, and then they cancel or they don't show up, right? What's happening there? We didn't build a connection. We promoted. We got false positives. We thought it was great because we felt so good about all the information we were sharing, but we didn't pause to go, is what I'm sharing connecting or is it promoting? Connecting or promoting? And then the third step, and let me go first, leader content. Second, content that builds connection, sharing human journey experiences instead of content that says we do ABC for 1, 2, 3 companies in order to get XYZ outcomes, right? Third step, that content then fuels your entire outreach system. Just stop sending the promo. I mean, you already know the data. Your emails aren't getting read. They're not getting open. They're not getting clicked. The answer isn't send more. You guys heard me say pedal faster. That's my thing. Oh yeah, just pedal faster. You'll get there. Just pedal faster. Send more. Do more. Use AI automation. Get more out there. You're just going to have a lot more rejection. We have to shift. We have to change the way that we show up in that. So there's your emotional resonance framework. Let's move to section 3 for today. It's volume isn't the villain, although when we focus just on volume alone, it is a big part of being the villain. But really, confusion is the big villain. Big villain. Big villain. Grab some water. You know, I get messaging is hard, and clarity is getting harder with so many companies out there, and we want to differentiate, and we want to be clear, but we want to be complete. And I'm going to come back to, I mean, you're going to see these recurring themes with me over and over again. Is executive conviction, executive point of view, executive voice, executive journey, executive experience, executive thoughts, executive observations. That will earn more engagement. And that type of engagement or comment goes from, oh my gosh, this resonates with me, I'm going to comment, to I remember them. Does that make sense? Like if you're on the podcast, what I'm doing is I'm pointing to my heart when, oh, I want to comment on this because this relates to me as a human being. And they comment, and then that comment goes from the heart, it goes to the brain, it goes to the memory, right? Because really we're all led by the heart more than the brain. Like we remember that, right? It's really easy for us to think that we're more logical than feeling, and it's just a fallacy that we all wish that we had more control over our emotions than we actually do. So volume isn't the villain, confusion is. And the way that we cut through that confusion is leading with that humanity, leading with the human experience, because that's where humans want to engage, or more naturally. I guess that's the right way of saying it. It's not that they want to, they will naturally do it without thinking, because the emotion, the heart connection leads them to act. And that's where I say logic makes people think, emotion leads them to action. So a couple of filters, a way to, am I focused on confusing? Is my messaging off? Is my messaging confusing people? Am I just trying to say too much and not the right thing? So here's a couple of tactical, like human filters, personal filters. Before you write something or you create content or even do a video, would I say this out loud if I was face to face with somebody, with a peer or a prospect or a customer? Would you say this out loud? And you might. And this isn't a perfect filter. If your style is to always be selling, then this filter may not work with you. But for a lot of us, when we're face to face, we're different. We have different conversations. We have different approaches to our conversations than when we sit around and we type something or we create a video. So one filter would be, hey, would I say this face to face with a peer? And the second one, and this is a hard one if you haven't done the work. Here's the filter. Does this reflect my true beliefs? Is this really aligned with who I am at the core? Like, this is a big one, and this goes into what I love, like what my driving force. Everybody is about alignment. It's like we got to know ourselves to lead ourselves. And if we know ourselves and lead ourselves into the right things and we have alignment, then everything in the world becomes so much easier, including sales, including revenue, including relationships. But if we don't take the time to know what our actual beliefs are, and we don't know ourselves, and then we put ourselves in a place where we're not aligned, and then we get really, really frustrated at the outcomes. And it really just comes down to, well, you know what? You're probably in a role, or you're selling something from a position, from a place that's not aligned with who you truly are. And it's just not going to resonate. I mean, the energy that comes from that is going to create confusion instead of creating connection. So getting the clarity of who you are and how to position yourself with your product or your service, how you're out earning trust by serving, by sharing, by educating, by being other oriented, then creates the demand. So that flywheel is clarity, trust, and demand. And look, I know for everybody today, I mean, throw in the comments if this is deep, right? Throw in there, I mean, man, Brandon, this is deep. And I know it's kind of deep, but it's also the foundational work that leads all of us to more success. Like I've been reflecting pay attention to my LinkedIn content for the next few weeks because I'm on this kick. I've just been reflecting on my career, but also my role as husband and dad at the same time. And one thing really just like brutally stands out to me. When I walk in alignment, everything's easier and better and more enjoyable and more joyful. And when I've walked out of alignment, everything's frustrated and challenging and difficult and lost and just. And that's why I'm bringing some of this in, is that we all can do so much better with our content in order to support our outreach, in order to build our network and grow our reputation, in order to create more opportunities and close more deals, which is ultimately what we care about. If we come back to the foundation of knowing ourselves in order to lead ourselves. Right? I'm going to go back to, are you mistaking visibility for trust? And this segment of volume isn't the villain, but confusion is. So often when we're confused, we create confusion around us. And then we want to blame like, oh, this tactic isn't working or that tactic isn't working. And the reality is we're just confused ourselves, and therefore we're confusing the people around us. So we're going to land this plane today on segment 4 of this, which is from noise to signal, or building with clarity. So what is one little shift that you can make this week? And here's three different ideas or practical, tactical things that you can do as a leader. Number one would be take a LinkedIn post that you've written before, or a blog article you've written before, or maybe it's even a video you've created, and look at it and go look at it from this perspective. What would that look like if you had a very bold point of view? If you had a very bold emotional stance, or a point of view, or a belief around that from your personal experience, from your personal journey? What would that piece of content look like? And here's my prompt to help you. What did you think? What did you feel? Or what did you observe? Right? When we create content, whether we're speaking with somebody or we're writing it or we're creating videos, when we say, I observed this, and you explain what happened and why it was relevant to you, why it caught your attention. Hey, I've been in this industry for 30 years. Right? I have been growing companies for over 30 years. And one thing that I am observing right now is that I have more and more leaders that I talk to that have said, hey, our cold outreach is simply not returning an ROI, and I don't know what to do. Right? That's a bold statement from your experience. What I have found over the last 3 to 4 years is that our data shows that cold calls are getting less returned phone calls and less answers than ever before. So what does that mean? Well, if I look at the data, not just my data, but I look at the data that's out there from the big firms, it's that when prior years ago, it used to be, common theme was to go and make 50 calls a day in order to create the amount of work, the amount of conversations. And then that increased and increased and increased and increased and increased. And now I think that the number I see is up over 400 messages a day that a human being can't possibly do in a single day. And so we use automation. When we share from our experience, like I just shared, like, hey, I built a company with a call center. It was awesome because it worked. But now that it doesn't work, you got to find a new awesome to hang your your pipeline building on. But here's my suggestion: rewrite an old LinkedIn post or an old blog article or a newsletter article, but come at it with a very strong, bold point of view based on your experience and your journey. The other piece I would say is number two would be share more stories that illustrate your strong point of view, that your observation, your belief, or your feeling, right? So I'll take a story that I've shared already in this episode. I was on a conversation yesterday with the CEO. So here's my strong point of view. I have found the best thing that any company can be doing right now for pipeline building is not cold outreach, but starting with actions that build relationship with your ideal customer. And that means in non-sales actions. Because as soon as we start selling, they pull back or they pull away or they put a wall up or they don't return a call or they don't respond to an email. But when we do relationship building actions like invite them to an event or lead an event or share data or information that helps them in their business today, right now, whether it relates to our company or not. That is working better than any other pipeline building activity that we've experienced over the last year. And then I can tell my story that I've already told you about being on a call with a CEO yesterday and just being all about them. Asked a lot of questions, was curious about their business. But what it led to was the door opening from their part, not my part. Now, I would have gotten there if it didn't get there if he didn't open the door, I would eventually try to open the door. I don't want this to sound like it's completely passive. We just sit around and wait for gold to fall from heaven. That's not what I'm saying. But because the door opened quicker by him just saying, and I got to know more, Brandon, about what you do because I want to work with you. There's my story that would support my bold point of view. Now, the other number three tactic I would say, and this is something you can do, is go back and look at your previous content, whether it's a video or something you wrote. And this is a tough question, and this is just reflecting on our own stuff. And you don't have to answer it publicly, just between you and no one else. But did that content really say anything that mattered? Was there anything that truly mattered to somebody reading it? Did it have an impact on a human? Or were we just pushing more information around and trying to promote ourselves? Right. I know that's a hard question because we want to, I know I do this. My ego always wants to say, oh my gosh, I created amazing content. But my ego isn't always right, right? My ego is rarely right. So take a look at our content and say, did I say something in there that truly mattered to my prospective customers, that's valuable for them, regardless of whether they need my product or service right now? Because right now, that's the only way we're going to get their attention. It has to be all about them. So what would change? What would change in your content if you said more? If you said less, but had more impact or meant more, had more emotional resonance to it. Here's my big invitation to you for today. And if you want to send it to me, I'd love to hear it. Is what message do you really, really want to be known for? There's a guy on TikTok that I found, and I love his stuff. He says that he can help people discover the topic to make them a multimillionaire within 2 minutes. I forget his name. I'll have to look for it. If you really want it, let me know and I'll find it. He's a British guy. And as I've seen a few of these videos, he's so brilliant because what he says is most of us work in areas that are misaligned with who we are and what we truly care about. So if you can find what you truly care about, then that alignment is going to help you be more passionate, be more energetic, be more excited, and be more attractive to other people. And I would say in my successes, that's exactly what happened when I look back on it. I used to think I was so good at selling on it wasn't that. I was aligned, and God and the universe, responded appropriately because I was aligned with what I was supposed to be doing. But what message do you really, really want to be known for? And I'm not telling everybody to go find a new industry or go sell a different product or go become a CEO of a different company. When I had By Design Publishing, one of the best things that we did in training salespeople was helping them understand what motivated them to sell the service that we offered. And I get it. Number one, for everybody is money. We got to pay our bills. Great. Let's put that aside. What is it about what we offer that truly resonates with your human being, with your person? Because when you discover that and you lead with that, then you're going to have more success. If you heard nothing else today, hear that. Because when we're able to discover what is it about this thing, this widget, this service, this offering that really resonates with my human from my history, the good, the bad, the ugly, when I can align with that, then everything else becomes easier. And I'll share this to end this today, because this is a personal example. My dad was an entrepreneur. He was an entrepreneur, and I pause on this because I want to be respectful. But my dad was also a very stressed out business owner, and caused quite a bit of havoc and chaos in our lives. And I always thought as a kid, because I've always had this entrepreneurial thing, and I've always looked at businesses to go, how can I create systems or make something more efficient in order to take stress or take work off the plate and create more revenue? I was just wired to think that way. And so I used to think about that as a kid. I wasn't in a position to do anything to help my dad, but I did start applying that to my own entrepreneurial journeys as I walked up and down the street with my lawnmower. I had my paper route, all the things that I did that were very entrepreneurial. It was always like, how can I take work off people's plate and help them make more money? That was what I like to do. In my first company, I honestly had forgotten about it, but I had a customer call late at night. I was in California, so Pacific time. It was like 8:30 at night. I was still in the office. Didn't have cell phone back then. Maybe I did, but I answered the office line, and it was a customer from the East Coast, 11:30 their time, going, "Oh my gosh, thank you. I'm so glad you answered. I need help. I know today's a deadline, da 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 da." And I helped him, and he said something like, "Hey, thank you so much, because what you're doing is really helping my revenues be consistent in my business. And you're taking a lot of this stress and this work off my plate, and I really appreciate it." And it was like this ding, 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 ding. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is what I thought of. So from then moving forward, I align that. Like, everything that I do needs to be from this. I like to help business owners create systems that help them make more money and take stress and work off of their plate. It's a core of who I am. As I do that, I tend to be a lot more successful than if I start selling other things or doing other things that aren't aligned with who I am. So that's my example to you. And so the big invite is, what message do you want to be known for? Right? I want to be known for helping business leaders have systems that help them make more money and take stress off their plate. And that's why I do a lot around lead generation and demand creation and how do we create revenue from our reputation. This is what I love doing. And when I'm doing it from a place of personal integrity, which means I'm showing up, saying the things and who I am and what I truly believe. And trust me, 10 years ago, I was saying things in lead generation that I didn't really believe to be true, but I felt like this is what everyone's talking about. And so I positioned it that way. And I got a whole bunch of failure to show for it. But as I got back into my alignment and who I am, things have gotten a lot better. So, what message do you want to be known for? And how do you align that part of your humanity with what you're selling, with what you represent, with what you're doing? Because I tell you what, you figure that out and everything else gets a lot easier. So, all right. Hey, thank you all so much for joining me today on Revenue Through Reputation. Again, if you're on any of the video platforms, you comment, I will see it. I will get notified. I will come and comment back, and I would thank you in advance for that. Any questions you have, you can DM me if you want on LinkedIn. That's usually the easiest. And then, hey, if you're on the podcast, hey, thank you so much. And like I said before, if you're finding value with this, the reviews would be awesome. I'd really, really appreciate it. And if you want to share this with anybody, I would be equally grateful for that as well. So, hey, thank you, everybody. I will see you next week. I do not know the topic for next week. I don't remember it. So I will, I just leave you with that. I usually like to tell you that next week we're going to talk about this, but I will add this. If you're still on here, tomorrow, July 30th at 2 p.m., moderating a CEO roundtable with Alice Hyman. I will get the links out in here as well, but we've got, I don't know, there's over 30 CEOs, I think, in there that have registered. It's peer-to-peer discussion. There's no sales pitch. There's no selling. There's no webinar. We're not trying to teach you anything. We just want to bring a bunch of CEOs together and say, hey, what's going on? Share what's working, what's not working. What questions do you have for your peers? And like I said, we've got over 30 CEOs, I think, registered for that one for tomorrow. And if you want to be a part of that, let me know. Like I said, I'll get the links in here for registration. But if not, just DM me and let me know, and I'll get that link off to you as quick as I can. So, all right, everybody, thank you so much. Have a great rest of your Wednesday. I appreciate you. And